Welcome to Page Turners by Authrs.io. I am Corey Fradin.
I am Corey Gladwell.
Co-hosts, best friends in the whole wide world, and
That's
business partners.
right.
We are
Flip
here to
those
talk
pages.
about, that's it. We're here to talk about a bunch of book things today.
Flipping pages.
So many different questions, so many different places to go. Let's get into it right
dive
away.
in. Let's dive in.
Mr.
We're talking
Corey
about
Gladwell, go ahead.
Figma. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were talking about Figma. We were talking about some design stuff.
One of the things I was going to talk about, and I think we were just
Yeah,
discussing a
let's do
little bit ago, which is, people come to us, and it's, again, we'll talk about this later in the podcast today, but some of the most amazing people that we get to have conversations with on, not even, our clients are phenomenal, and we've had just this squad of amazing humans that have done great things. But even the quote unquote leads, like potential customers that we get to talk to, are just these next level people, and you're just blown away. And so one of the things that gets asked all the time, and I wanted to talk to you about, is, people talk about, well, what if I don't have enough ideas to write a book? Like, what if I don't even know what I could write a book about, or, I don't know what it should be, and da-da-da-da. And I wanted to talk to you about that, because it's something that comes up all the time when we're talking to clients. So.
Yeah, it's a great kickoff question, so thank you for asking.
Yeah, kickoff, touchdown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it.
Let's go.
Football.
Let's go Seahawks.
Okay.
Let's go Seahawks.
Sponsored by.
Sponsored by the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, it's a great question. The good news is, by the time they start working with us, we take all of that off their plate, as in to take all the pressure off. I was literally just talking to a client earlier who was like, I have all these ideas. I don't know which one we want to talk about or get into. And I was like, let's talk about all of them right now.
Right.
And then your writer, who's like, that's their thing. They are good writers.
Yeah.
They do that thing like on detective shows where they got like the cork board and the Post-it notes and all the different strings.
They're bringing it all
and
together.
And the circles, and like, this is it. Like, that's their thing. They're putting the pieces together. Like, you don't have to. You can just show up and share your story, share your experiences, share the things that put you on the other side of this call right now.
Yeah.
And just know that it's all going to get worked out. We're going to put the puzzle together.
All taken care
and you can
of.
just show up and have a good time.
That's what's so beautiful, because we built a business, Toot. We built this amazing business. It's phenomenal. It's great. You should love it if you don't. And if you don't, doesn't matter. We don't care. But we built this amazing business to serve a client that is us, right? That is a busy executive, busy professional, that doesn't have the time to not only just sit down and handwrite a book if you're old school like me, or type it up, or get ideas, or even just create an outline. Like, you are a busy professional. You are working. You have either a full-time career, Fortune 500 executive, C-suite, whatever, or you're a business owner or founder. So you have all of zero time available besides your family, your health, and working out. So we built this in that sense that, like, hey, if you have literally no time and you can just squeeze out 20, 30, maybe 45 minutes, whatever it is, every couple of weeks for a handful of calls, then we literally do all of it. And another thing, just to add to that too, the ideas, I don't know if I have enough ideas for a book, or I have too many ideas. That's another thing that comes sometimes. It's like, well, I have 3 different books that I want to do. And then we're like, okay, well, let's talk about that. And we're like, that can actually be one book. Let's put that into this first book, and then let's go from there, instead of, I don't know where to start, I'm just not going to do it at all, which happens as well. So
You talked about time. So something we often hear, because they're so busy, is, well, I don't know if I have enough time to commit to this project right now. I don't know if right now is the right time.
Yeah, that is that common one. It's like, what if now isn't the right time? Like, I don't know if I have, if now is the right time. A lot of times, too, there's 2 different ways of this, and this is a great question. So thank you for asking and bringing it up. There's 2 different kind of versions of this, right? One is, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time, which we just kind of answered. You do. You have no time to work with us, because it's literally just a few minutes a week, every couple of weeks, whatever it may be, and that's pretty much it. The other one, though, is, what if now isn't the right time, and because I have something a year from now, or I am going to do this thing in 3 years. I want to transition from my current career to move into my second mountain, right? To be able to do the more meaningful thing, to do the consulting, to do the speaking, or I'm going to sell my business, and so I want to wait till I do that, then I'll do this. Or, hey, I want to stay in my current career, and I don't know what I want to do, but I know I do want to do something in 2 or 3 years. That's great. Then you should start now, right? Like, because the reality is, it's not like an overnight thing. And this is the same when it comes to writing books, when it comes to doing TED Talks. Like, if you want to do it anytime in 2025, you should have started in July of 2024, right?
It's a process. Yeah.
It's a process. And not only, and it can go as short as 6 months. It can go as long as 12 months. It can go beyond that too if you have something happen with life or whatever else. Or if you just want to be very intentional with building your personal brand and building up your speaking career and your consulting career or whatever it is you want to do next. Because after you have the book written and then we publish it for you, we launch it to a bestseller, we do all the PR for you, and you're starting to get out there and get these speaking engagements or do podcast interviews and do all these things. Then you have the like kind of next wave, and then you have whatever new thing is coming, and you have to add that on. And there's a lot to it, and again, we take that off the shoulders of all our clients. But it's not like this this thing that you're like, hey, now I want to do it. And it's like, well, now you got to wait another however long. So do it now. So yeah.
Yeah.
So as I go on a little tangent, one of the things that that kind of ties to this too is imposter syndrome, right? And we get this a lot where it's like, and it's so funny, right? Because it's like, these are the people, right? That shouldn't necessarily have it. But who am I to write a book? Who am I to write a book? That's something that comes up all the time. And and you were talking about this earlier.
Yeah,
so.
I literally had an onboarding call with a new client this morning who has a very cool background in the military and done some really cool things with some well-known companies and done some cool stuff that I was like, I'm drooling with the amount of questions I want to ask you. And he's like, I just don't know if anyone's going to read this or who's going to care or why, whatever. And he was like, do you get that a lot? I'm like, I get that question probably 85% of the time.
It's so wild. It's so wild.
And I think and we've talked about this, I think it's kind of like the smarter you are, you're more humbled by the amount of things you don't know.
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Is that what it is?
I think is the scientific study that was done, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Where the more you know, the less you know, or the more you know you don't know.
Exactly,
things,
yeah. Like this whole study, yeah.
So it's the same thing here. Like the more cool you are, the more you're aware of like how cool you could be, and you feel like you're not very cool, whatever. But the reality is,
exactly,
us talking, getting to this point where we're having this conversation is like, you've done so much cool stuff. That's like,
right.
To you, it's just life. You've just been doing this for the last however many years. Like you're just going day to day. To the outside though, it's like, whoa, you've done really fascinating things, or you've gone through some really tough stuff and come out the other side and have a really powerful story to tell. And so often it's just reiterating like, no, like this is powerful. Like this is going to impact someone's life in a really, really good way.
I know we're talking about our clients, but I felt like you were talking to me, and I was like, thank you. I started taking it personal. I was like, oh my God, it's really heartfelt. That was really... Which I know, I've done some cool things too, but I was just like, oh wow.
Was I making too much eye contact?
No. It was it was a perfect amount of eye contact for a Corey, such as myself or yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. Oh, I just had that moment. I was like, oh, this is the nicest. We're just here gassing each other up the whole time. Like, are they even talking about
so funny.
us? But no, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I'm sure someone will. The whole 12 subscribers we have, someone will comment. Potentially, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's basically, like you said, the more intelligent someone is, the more aware they are of what they don't know, and because of that, they're very humble and hesitant to, say this is exactly what it is, and that kind of,
I've done something amazing. There's that humility, like, who am I to say I've lived a fascinating life?
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm there to say, hey, you actually
this
have.
Is actually amazing.
And I'm losing my mind because this is a short call, and now I have to wait to get on the recording call to actually get into the weeds on these stories.
And to anyone like thinking about it, and I'm going to rat you out a little bit here.
Great.
You literally do text me after like some of the client calls, and you're like, "This is some blah, 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 blah." It's like so amazing. And I'm like,
our clients are so fucking cool every time. Because right now I've been working with a lot of clients as we continue to grow and scan. We bring more people in, train more people, but like working with so many clients, our clients every time, because we've talked about avid readers. We love books. I find that I'm their target audience so often.
Exactly. Yeah,
and it's
so
like
true.
I'm the reader. I'm channeling the reader, talking to the author directly, being like, tell me more about this. Let's get into that. And there's so many times where I've gone off calls, especially when it comes to like leadership or business books, that I'm like, I'm personally taking notes after the call. Like
you've got all your stuff.
And then I text you like, hey man, we got to do this, this, and this, because I'm talking to the expert.
Yeah.
They're so cool. Yeah. But back to the question at hand of like that kind of imposter syndrome. To them, they don't feel like the expert. They don't feel like this amazing
It's just
business
their normal life.
They've just been doing this for the last however many years, 40, 50,
it's so
60 years.
true.
To them, it's like, oh yeah, I go day by day. But for me, I'm like, oh shit, I'm the reader and this is fascinating. How do you not see how cool you are? This is great.
Yeah.
And so often in the beginning, it's a lot of me being like, what are you talking? Like, this is fascinating. Please tell me more.
Exactly.
And then being like, oh, you actually care? It's like, yeah, I give a shit. This is amazing.
And a lot of people not only do right now, but will once that book is done and it's out there and it's everywhere. Same experience I've had with talking to clients where I'm just like, can you what about this? Like, let me double. Remember that? I can't remember. I'm not going to say the client's name because I don't know if they'd be okay with it or not because of our NDAs and stuff. But there was one client where he like randomly discussed falling into a volcano, and then he just skipped. Oh, you remember this? And he just like kind of skipped over it, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "No, can you tell me about that again?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll get to it later." Then he never did, and then like his writer that we had assigned to him was just like, what the hell happened with the volcano thing, man? Like, I got to know.
You can't just dangle that.
And he kept just like kind of putting it off. And I'm like, no, you can't. You fell in a volcano, and yet we're here talking. Let's talk about this. Like, what? And it was just like a passing thing for him about.
It's just life, and they're like
part of the
Oh, that's just a boring side quest. That's not my actual. It's like, what are you talking about? You fell into a volcano. This is crazy.
Which is so cool because it's part of like that Dunning-Kruger effect. That the reverse side of that, the flip side of that is, and you see this on the news and social media, different places. Hello to everyone on social media land, where instead of when they're not intelligent, right? People that aren't intelligent are way overly confident, like that unearned confidence of like, this is the facts, this is what it is, and it's like, well, no, it's not. It's like, no, this is what it is, and there's like no debating this is just what it is, and they're just so confident about the wrong answer. That's the opposite, because the low level of intelligence that they have. They have no doubt in their minds because there's not enough intelligence to question.
That's actually interesting because I wonder your thoughts on this. Like, I wonder if, can you hear me okay, Murphy, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if sometimes I sound a little echoey. I was like, I can't tell.
Hello,
and
testing,
we're
testing.
back.
There we go. 1 second.
Oh, we're good. Okay, great. I forgot my thought. It doesn't matter.
Sprite, obey your thirst. I wonder my thoughts on the Dunning-Krugers. The Krugers.
I feel like it's. Oh, I was going to say, yeah. So I wonder if I lost it again. Let's move on. I had it and it's gone. So let's.
What are your thoughts on social media experience with people that are very confident that don't know the?
Okay, let me see if I can get it back.
It's almost there.
It was kind of like, I wonder if, because the confidence, the unearned confidence, is how you end up living this really cool life. Like, often, like entrepreneurs, you'll hear them be like, they're so confident because they don't know how hard the path is going to be. And so so I wonder though if the humility and the learning more is part of the process. And so if you're coming into it like I'm the best, then maybe it's not time for you. But if you're in like, I'm not sure if anyone's going to read my thing, maybe that's a really good sign. That someone is going to want to read your thing.
And anytime someone that's like an amazing client is like, I just don't know. I don't know if like who would want to listen to me. Who's gonna want to read this book? And I'm like, oh yeah, ding ding ding. Like you're someone we should be working with.
Yeah.
Because if someone comes in like I got all the answers, they don't, right? Because like to your point, in the beginning in entrepreneurship or anyone who's highly successful, in the very beginning, and this is when you're younger, right? You have to have that kind of unearned confidence or that unconscious competence. Like you just got to push through and not realize how hard it is. To
like
your point,
fake it
right?
Till you make it. Like, I'm it. It's going to be.
I'm just going to push through and have that belief in yourself. You kind of have to have that unflinching, unwavering belief in yourself. Then, after enough failures and after enough learning experiences, to reframe it, then you start to go, well, what if I'm not? And then you go, well, I do want to be still. Let me figure out how I can be. Then you apply the actual lesson that you learned from the failures, and then build the skill set to actually become that person that you want to be. But that's when, to your point, it's like that's when they're like, yeah, I don't know if anyone would. They have a little bit of humility. The life has humbled them. And if you haven't been humbled yet by life, don't worry, you will be. It comes.
In a great way.
It comes for everyone. In a great way.
It's beneficial.
In a great way, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, more questions.
The dark night of the dudes.
That's it.
Of the soul? That's it. Never mind. I got it wrong.
I'm looking at the questions that we want to make sure we touch. So,
souls.
What if I don't have enough ideas to write a book? I think, did we touch on that?
Mm-hmm.
Did we touch on that one?
Yeah, I think we talked about all those ones. Yeah, that was the first one.
What if I'm not a good writer?
Fourth one, we got that one.
We talked about the second one?
Yeah.
The second one, in case we didn't.
I think we did.
You don't have to be a writer at all because we write it for you.
Yeah, you were like, we do all of it. Yeah.
Okay,
because sometimes people do say, like, I hate writing. Like, I hate writing.
Yeah.
So I can't write a book. And it's like, well, yeah, don't worry about it.
You're
not going to write the book.
Yeah,
we're going to write the book.
And so
our team is.
To that point too, like even preparation for the calls, like some of our clients are like really called to like sharing notes with me or videos before, which is great. Other clients are like, I got so much shit going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up on this call and wing it, and that'll be
which is great.
They're
also,
both great. My intention I think I've said this on the last one. My intention on like when we're working with clients, and I know yours is too, is like to make it as easy and fun for them as possible.
Yeah.
To just show up and share their
The
experiences.
least amount of things required from them.
As possible, to make it as fun, as simple, and as amazing.
Yep.
So whether they, and if that means waking up at 3 a.m, I have so many ideas, let me message Corey.
They want to dump a bunch of notes and all the things.
But as soon as it becomes work for them, it's like, no. Make it easy for you. Let's just jump on a call and we'll get all the things.
And that's one of the things too that we hear. And just to add to that is that there are some clients that don't have the time to give us any notes or ideas or whatever. And again, they don't need to, but they feel like they need to. And then they go, I need to go back and I need to write, I need to do all this editing. I need to add all this. And that is a limiting belief. Like that's a blocker just for all of you potential clients out there, or even some of our current clients if you're watching this. Don't let that prevent you from just showing up on the calls and letting our team do the work for you. Don't think that you need to do all this stuff or else we're not going to get it right. You don't. Like when you have a full chapter done and you review it, tear it apart, add notes, your writer's going to rewrite it and go through, your editor's going to go through again, our team is going to dive through it. Then you can add more notes and we're going to beat up the writing. We're going to beat up the story. We're going to go over and over again until you go, like, I love this. And it's that, you talked about this last week or other week, it's that messy middle. And some people in that messy middle, especially type A's or like, very much control, think I need to do this. I can't let you guys do this. I need to do all this stuff. Then it pauses for however many weeks or
because
something.
now it's work for them. And they're like, oh,
and they're like, and that's another thing. And
yeah.
it's like, that's self-inflicted. So just I'm not going to say this on the calls, but if you're watching,
well, yeah,
if this speaks to you,
I equate it to like chipping away at a block of marble, like getting to
Yes.
the David or whatever, that statue in Italy, the Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Like getting to that.
It's like my Mona Lisa one.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's creating a work of art. And so it's in the case of the marble metaphor or analogy, you're chipping away, you're smoothing down the things.
Yeah.
We know where it's going to get to, but it's a process.
It's a process.
It's a collaboration.
It
like,
is.
hey, I actually wanted this to be sanded down or whatever.
And it's very much, just to clarify for any clients or potential clients that are watching, there's no one specific. There's a handful of you, so don't feel like it's just you. But if it does speak to you, it is probably you're one of them. But it's the same thing. The marble, it is in a
great way. I think if I'm to interpret what you're saying, we're giving them permission to
not have to work.
Don't stress about it.
Yeah, don't stress about it. Don't work on it. We're doing it. We're doing it.
You're paying us to provide this service.
Yeah.
We're gonna nail it out of the park.
And we've had this, and so just to beat this thing to a pulp, is that we've had this where, again, and just because we're very transparent and honest about our process, and so whenever I've had a handful of those clients, right, where we've had a handful of those clients where they're like, I need to do all this stuff, and I'm like, no, you don't, and then I have to kind of debate with them a little bit, and we go through this kind of back and forth a little bit, and then I'm like, just trust the process, just go, and then they're like, oh my God. And I think I mentioned this the other day, like this one client who doesn't fit this category at all, but just the response of like giddiness, like just so excited about where things were at and how great the book was and what's going to happen with the marketing and the publishing also. And so it's like that's where we're always going to get to. Yeah. It's going to always get there, and just don't feel like you have to hoard it and control it, or else it's not going to work, because that's not how it works. So,
yeah, that's the fun part of the done for you, is like
it's literally done for you.
It's literally done for you, and you can be doing all your things.
It's in the name.
It's in the name.
It's in the name.
One question I was going to ask was
books and business,
branding, business, barbecues.
Books, business, barbecues, and brands, and personal branding.
Yes, that's so funny. I was going to ask you about that. So, how do you balance? How do you balance between? Let's say you're running a business, or you have a very busy day to day. You are ready to start building a personal brand. You want to do the speaking and the consulting. That's on the docket. That's on the timeline. How do you start balancing between, like, I'm focusing on, let's say they're running a business. I'm focusing on running a business, but also I want to start building a personal brand for these things.
Such a great question. Such a great question. And again, it's funny, because I was going to say the same thing I've been saying this whole time, which is this is something we hear all the time, because it really is. And and I remember when I was like first writing books, or I was first building businesses, and again trying to do this myself back then, and feeling like everything was its own thing. Feeling like everything was like, this book is really over here. It's not really related to what I'm doing over here. And then if I go do this talk, that's not really related. So then if I have this course or this coaching or consulting, or then I have my whole actual business over here, and it feels very chaotic, and like everything is separate. And then you start going, because you listen into Tim Ferriss or some productivity thing, and you're like, I need to focus on the one thing, and Grant Cardone's in your head, and whatever else. People are like, you got to just only do the thing, and then you stop. You don't work on anything. You stop doing things, and I'm just going to focus on the business, head down. And it's like it's not bad. I'm not saying that that's bad to do, but really, the idea of what we do here with book publishing and everything that you get with our with working with us with our team, when it comes to how to land speaking engagements and how to scale a consulting company, really it is scaling a personal brand, right? How do you scale a personal brand? You can scale a business, right? You can do the math, the numbers. How do you scale a personal brand? And to scale a personal brand, you can do a book, right? It's a key element of that. Talks, whether it's keynote speeches, TED Talks, another aspect of this, the social media aspect. But why I say all of that is really just to say, like, it doesn't have to feel separate. It can be together. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have a book written on exactly what you do for work and your talks are exactly what your business is about. They don't have to be exact, but I can almost guarantee, and this is kind of goes back to I have 3 different books I want to write, and it's like, no, it's one book. As the person that's going through it, we feel like things are very separate. This is different than this. When we talk to a client, and this happens sometimes on the first initial call before they even join as a client, but almost always happens on that onboarding call, to your point earlier, of like when they're working with us, me or you or the client success manager, is that it feels separate. It feels like my personal brand is this, my business is this, my book is this. They're all related. If you're working on them, if you're talking about them, if you're wanting to write on it or teach on it or share on it or build a business around it, there's things that are related. Now, if your business, and we have some clients, they're in shipping and receiving, they're in trucking, they're in something entirely different than you'd think anything about a book would be about. But the book does come into play with the business. And it's like, here's the lessons I learned. Here's the value I learned from scaling this business or from changing it. Or here's my, kind of the personal development side of how I grew as a person scaling this business. There's always a correlation. There always is the connect the dots. And so the things don't have to feel separate. You don't have to focus your time on, this is my personal brand and this is my company. All right, this is my business over here. You can do both at the same time, and they all are interwoven together. It's just trying to figure out that through line so your time, attention, and your mind power and emotional power and energy isn't split. And that's where people get, they can fail in it or push it off, is because they try to split their energy between different things and different aspects. And it's like, when you can sync those things together by having a call with us, then all your energy is focused, and you can have success too.
You do a really good job at that, I will say.
Thank you.
Because you do so many things. You've done so many things, you do so many things, and you are so good at weaving it all together.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Where I know for myself, I will often put things into boxes. I only do this over there, and I only do this over that, and this, whatever. And it's great watching how you operate, because, you're able to just kind of interweave it all and do all the things because it's all you. It's the central theme is you doing these things. Right.
And it's really, I think it's really just the mindset of how I look at it, If I can find that through point, so thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words. And if I can find the through point, then it's like, okay, well, I could connect this with this, and I can connect that with that. And then it just all flows together, and I don't have to feel torn and be like, I need to go do this for myself over here, or this for the business over here. And that, at least for me, I flow that way. And to others, maybe like yourself, where it's like maybe you flow with those things being separated out, but then you get to have experiences like this, like even this podcast, right? Like, we're doing a podcast about our publishing company, talking about our publishing company, but it's also an aspect of our own personal brands, and it's also clips that we can use for our own social medias, if you had one, and for the business, and it can go on the website, and the long form can get turned into a blog post, and then
it's all
out of the blog post, and it's all this repurposing content thing, but it's all connected, and it can share across everything, and that one thing becomes 500 things, and then you're not having to like create and figure out how to do all these different things. It's like, show up, do that thing, let that magic happen, and then it can all work. So schedule a call.
1,000%. Let's see. So many good questions. Oh yeah, are there any ones that come to mind?
I was going to talk about something about transforming an idea into a full-length book. Does it sound weird when I'm this close to the?
It's definitely in my ear.
It's a little bit.
Yeah. If that was a concern, you nailed it. What's your question? Go for Corey.
I was going to talk about the just the idea of like how, or transforming idea, just the concept of transforming. Like, hey, there's this idea, and that turns into like a full length book. What does that process look like?
What does the process look like?
Yeah.
Like, how do we turn? I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question. So, someone comes to us with an idea. How do we then turn that into the book?
Yeah, like a lot of people have a hard time. I know, like seeing like, I want to write a book on this. How do I get from this idea that we're talking about to finished book?
How do I go from I want to write a book on persistence to actually having a 50,000 word book or whatever it comes?
Some of those steps,
Yeah. I'm trying to think about the fastest way to answer. Not the fastest, but like
maybe the high level. The high level, yeah.
The high level is, and are we talking to?
They schedule a call with us.
This was a tough question.
They schedule a call with us.
That's the answer. So
That's it.
Is that question related to like, okay, a client signs up with us and they say, hey, I want to write a book on persistence. How does this turn into something? Great.
Yeah.
So here's kind of how our process works. So your CSM, your client success manager, whether it's me or you or someone on our team, their job is to ask you questions.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to be like the Riddler or to be a detective. They
Right.
are curious about you, and they're going to keep polling until they get to the gold or
Right.
whatever. And so all of those recordings, all of our calls get recorded, they get transcribed, they get handed off to the writer. Then the writer does the corkboard thing with the strings and the circling.
Yeah.
And this is the thing.
That
And
guy
so,
from like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia comes to mind. You know that meme of him
Charlie?
where he's got like the cigarette and he's got like all the different
I think so.
things or whatever.
I don't know if I've seen that. I'm sure I've seen it.
I'll have to find it.
Please.
Yeah.
But either way, so that's how. And so all you have to do again is just jump on a call, and in that very short period of time, we're going to ask you so many questions and go down so many alleyways that then when we meet to go over the outline, you're going to be like, oh, you fucking nailed it. How did you get that from this? And then we get into the writing. It's like, and then we're just doing more of that. And
Right.
so we're so good at asking questions that then all they have to do is provide the answers
Right.
from a place of honesty and integrity. Just answer the questions.
Yeah.
And then from there, we'll be able to do all the work for them.
Yeah, because a lot of clients.
Okay.
That's it. Because a lot of clients too. And why I ask is because we were talking earlier about some of the calls you have with clients, and you're just like, I'm taking notes. Like this is amazing. And not for the thing, but just because you're like personally so excited about the content.
Personal notes.
Yeah, and a lot of clients feel, or even people before they become clients, like it feels very overwhelming to like, I have this idea, like persistence. I'd love to have a book about persistence, but like, where do I even begin? What do I, and that overwhelming feeling, and like just touching on, some of the steps from like, hey, you don't need to worry about it, and like, here's how we do this, and you talked about this, like our full kind of process, but like, there's so much behind the scenes of like, how do you, getting quality writing, like how do we figure out having quality writing for that specific person, assigning them a specific writer, all of that kind of stuff to where they don't have to really even stress about it at all, So
speaking of the writers, I think we touched on it last time. It's so crazy because every writer that we have on the team right now is not only amazing, but we've never posted a job posting. We've never
so true.
We've never had to go out and actually recruit or whatever. People just end up coming to us for one reason. I know obviously we have a background in writing, so we are well connected in
both
that
writers,
space. So we not only know good writing, but we also know good writers, and often our clients tend to fall into like talking about either personal development or business because that's their background. Right. Often because we're working with executives. So that's where their strong suits are, either like going through persistence or resilience, like going through trials and tribulations, or growing a successful business, or leading a team or teams or huge corporations or what have you. And so all of our writers, again, especially on my background too, because I wrote in like the business / personal development world for so long. So I have so many well-versed writers in that regard that it ends up just matching up so nicely.
Yeah, which is, and they're amazing writers, right? Like
with huge followings online.
Exactly, yeah. Huge followings on Medium or wherever else. Like they're great writers in their own right. And so it is amazing when we get a client and they're like, I don't know if anyone can write on this topic. And I'm like, yeah, well, I bet you they can, because we got quite the selection here.
That, and also to that point too, like if I'm doing my job as their CSM, then I'm going to be asking questions that the book is going to write itself.
It's so true.
We're going to be going down all the different paths, and it may not feel like you're sharing a lot, but like I'm going to be drinking coffee and talking quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to they're going to be talking quick. We're going to just be going like rapid fire, and they're going to get off the call smiling, be like, that was so fun. And then they read the chapter, they read the manuscript, and they're like, you fucking
How'd you
did it.
get- yeah,
you did it.
you
How did
fucking
you?
did it.
You did it.
fucking did it.
So,
Yeah. No, I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. And the cool thing too is that, like, and you said this, like, anytime the client has a client success manager, right, and they're able to be asked the right questions. Like, you think about when you're having a conversation, and we do talk about this all the time, whether it's the podcast or just us hiking around in circles for 3 hours doing our healthy business meetings.
Yeah.
And it's like when there's literally nothing to talk about, or you have a ton of stuff to talk about, but you're like, I don't know where to begin, which is the overwhelming feeling of wanting to write a book. You don't know where to start. You're like, I have this idea, but where do I go? What do I do? When someone asks you a question, it's like all of a sudden you have the answer. You know, if you have to figure it out yourself, that's where people get writer's block, whatever.
So true.
They're like, I don't know.
It's
I don't
huge,
know.
daunting task. How do I chip away at
everything?
this thing?
Yeah, but when someone says, "Hey, tell me about your experience when you sold that company and went through X, Y, and Z. Tell me about this family experience. Tell me," and you're just like, "Oh, okay." And then now the client's talking, they're just opening up, just a normal conversation, and then all of a sudden, they mention something that's like really, it's gold, but they don't know it because they're just, it's their experience, their life.
It's just their day to day, yeah.
But as their client success manager, you're like, oh, no, let's talk a little bit more about that. And then all of a sudden, boom, like there's just this massive amount.
You struck
thousands
oil
of words.
or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
it's so
I love
fun.
it.
And it's
Love
great.
it.
It's easy for them. It's really fun for us on our end. Like it's a really cool kind of synergistic
It really is, yeah.
sort of thing.
It really is.
I wanted to ask in particular, I know the marketing landscape's changed a lot over the years and continues to change. What are some big shifts you're seeing kind of on the, not just in business, but in leadership?
Yeah.
In terms of how to best utilize having this book? Because I know like coaching was big. I know coaching is obviously still really big. Just different things have shifted over time, consulting versus
Very
speaking
true.
versus.
Yeah, and even within the quote unquote coaching space, right? There's coaching, there's consulting, there's advising. Like those are all very different things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people, especially if you're in digital marketing or any kind of online space, like coaching's coaching. And it's like, no. Coaching is this one specific small aspect of the greater, type of thing.
And there's even within coaching, there's a billion subgenres of
so many different
mindset
ones.
versus business versus leadership.
Yeah.
Like there's so many subgenres of coaching.
And even when it comes to like a lot of clients that like have really high quality, tools and their coaching is like just for high level executives. That is more of an advising role or a consulting role than necessarily a coaching, because some of that, even if it's a personal, someone would say, oh, it's a life coach. And it's like, no, there's some deep transformational work that has to be done for someone to get past certain things, to find that, emotional intelligence or whatever else they need to get access to, somatic healing thing. There's like this deeper level they need to get to. And so it could be more on the advising side, more on the consulting side. And so, so the landscape itself is constantly changing. And I think the one thing that a book, one of the many things that a book helps with is that, and we've talked about this before, is that when you write a best-selling book, and again, when we work with us, we launch you to a bestseller, we guarantee that top 10 placement on Amazon, or we'll keep launching until we get there. And it's a best-selling book inside as well as a product, not just a title ranking.
Yeah.
Then that becomes, again, the tool or the key to unlock a lot of doors. The big difference, though, is that when you're working with a potential client, or you want to work with a potential client, if they can buy your book and they can pick it up and they can open it, that's some of the most intimate mental space and emotional space you can have with a human being. When I read a book, me and you have personally talked about this, but it's like when I read a book, I'm like inside of this person's mind. I'm inside of their experience. I'm connecting with them on a very intimate level that you can't really do. I mean, you can do one-on-one, obviously, but you can't really do with a stranger that you don't know and just walk up to them and start to get really connected. And so when a potential customer of yours or a lead of yours that you want to do consulting for, or advising for, or coaching for, or you want to go speak at their events or something, they get to read your book, they get to see inside your mind and see inside your process and get a taste of what it's like to work with you or to experience conversating with you or to potentially get some kind of healing or some kind of, even if it's business, some kind of way to make X amount more money or some kind of way to shift beliefs or whatever the thing may be within just a few pages. And like that is, I mean, that's like that. There's, I was going to say priceless, but there is a price to it, but it should be priceless. Honestly, it should be more than it is. And so that I would say is one of the key aspects of how much it helps. Also, too, when you do work with us, I think one of the big things when it comes to that is we stay very much on top of the new trends in publishing, in marketing, in events and consulting and advising. Like if you want to become, get on the board of directors, right? And you want to do some board seats, like we have ways to show you how to do that. You want to do your TED Talk, we have ways to show you how to do that, right? We have
a client doing one at the end of the month.
Exactly. Yeah.
TED Talk,
and 3 or 4 of the clients that have already done amazing TED Talks, right? And so like, it's not that we're the only show in town, obviously, but we're the best show in town. But and not that we have the keys to the kingdom, because you can figure this stuff out yourself if you want to research. Everything is free on YouTube. Everything is free somewhere. If you want to do all the work, write the whole book, apply everywhere, figure it out, you can do it. We tell everyone almost everything anyways, very transparently. But when you work with us, not only is it done for you for the book, but we show you step by step how to do every single thing you want to do with a personal brand, for consulting, for coaching, for advising, whether you're charging $5,000 a month for a consulting service, or you're charging $400,000 a year. One of the clients is charging $400,000 a year for their advising role, and they're making that money off one specific client, let alone other clients they have. So like, that's the potential, right? And the book is what opens the doors for all of that. So that's my speech.
I was going to say something to consider too. Everything is absolutely figure outable. You can, and it's just a matter of how you want to allocate your time. Like we were talking, I was chatting with a children's author this weekend. Just so happened to meet them, and it's so cool because they created this whole series of children's books and they're trying to promote it, whatever. And it was just crazy. It was crazy talking with them because it's one thing to write the book and figure out promotion. It's one thing to write the book and figure out how to publish it. It's another thing to then have. It's like we've talked about before. You have to be both artist and the marketer and the salesperson.
I had the sales call on Monday about this. A follow-up call.
It's so it's so cool to do it on your own and say, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to put it out there, and then to actually get that big ROI that you're looking for, to really use it as that milestone or the stepping stone, whatever. Like it's a whole thing.
It really is.
You and can figure it out, but also it's like, how do you want to allocate your time? Because it's going to be a whole thing to try and figure this out.
And knowing that avenue too. So one of the calls I had on Monday was a customer or lead, whatever, that came into the our business. Had a call with one of our they're salespeople, I guess is the lack of a better word. We like to call them manuscript strategists, because that's kind of what they do. Whether you work with us or not, they're going to help you formulate that idea. One of these people was an amazing children's book author. They had they're doing like 25 books. They have 10 already done.
That's solid.
It's beautiful, amazing, but they're like, we don't know where to go from here. And that's a whole different play. That's more of, can you do licensing? Can you get a deal with Disney? Can you do stuffies, whatever?
Do a cartoon.
That's a whole cartoons. Yeah, all that stuff is a different play. But the same thing applies to personal development business books. That there's a business model you have to build out and have the intention of and the direction of. And also, to the point where you just said, be the artist, that's the creative that creates the whole thing. And marrying those two things together, that's what we've done here.
Yeah, well, because you have to, again, because looking at the books that we're often doing is like, you have to not just be the artist, but you have to be able to write the words and then edit the words. Yeah. And then get the design. Like,
and then become the words.
Become the words, be the words.
Be like words.
That's it.
As Bruce Lee once said.
It's the whole thing. I think we're just about up on time.
Are we?
Any other, I think we got a couple minutes. Are there any other?
I hate that thing.
It's helpful for me. Do you want? Are there
My
any?
guy's
other,
got a timer.
I got a timer going. I got 2 minutes.
Got to get that Chipotle. He doesn't care about the podcast time. He's like, I got Chipotle. Can't let that get cold. So let's go.
Let it get cold.
Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Well, I got a call.
I know. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm not.
Are there any other big questions that you wanted to touch on?
So many big questions.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We always do. We talk a lot. We talk fast.
And I will say,
you look beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. You too as well.
Thank you.
And I will say the coffee's both wearing off, and we've been talking. I've done a lot of talking today, so I'm ready to.
I got to go to the
gym.
Goodnight. That's what I'm going to do.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it up. Okay. Well, should we wrap it up then?
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of. Thanks for turning down. Turn down for what? And good night, America.
Yeah. Should we do? So should one person sign?
We should start doing
the other person should sign
the intros and outros. We haven't done any yet. I was talking to a guy about doing those.
Like the song.
We have a song.
Like
we have a bunch of clips and stuff.
Oh,
you know.
Fun. Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, I was thinking about this. So I introed us today. Do you want to outro us and say like, "Hey, thanks for listening," and then we can just. That's how we. You know how we take turns introing. We can take turns introing and outroing.
This has been another episode of Page Turners. In case we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Bye bye.